Welcome to the Top Business Leaders Show, powered by Rise 25 Media. We feature top founders, executives, and business leaders from all over the world.
Chad Franzen here, co-host for this show where we feature top restaurateurs, investors, and business leaders. This is part of our SpotOn Series. SpotOn has the best-in-class payment platform for retail, and they have a flagship solution called SpotOn Restaurant, where they combine marketing, software, and payments all in one. They've served everyone from larger chains like Dairy Queen and Subway to small mom-and-pop restaurants. To learn more, go to spoton.com. This episode is brought to you by Rise 25. We help B2B businesses to get ROI, clients, referrals, and strategic partnerships through done-for-you podcast. If you have a B2B business and want to build great relationships with clients, referral partners, and thought leaders in your space, there's no better way to do it than through podcasts and content marketing. To learn more, go to rise25media.com or support at rise25media.com. Dan Rowe is CEO of Fransmart, one of the largest restaurant franchise development firms in the world. For the last 30 years, Dan has invested in and grown emerging restaurant concepts into the global brands they are. Some of those include Five Guys Burgers and Fries and Qdoba Mexican Eats. He also serves on the board of directors of the National Restaurant Association. Dan, thank you so much for joining me today. How are you?
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Hey, so tell me a little bit more about Fransmart and what you guys do.
Yeah, so for 30 years, we basically have tried to find the next big thing as early as we can. So I started in the bagel business 30 years ago, and there was no bagel chains. And I got involved with the bagel chain, grew it to a couple hundred stores, sold it. I was a franchisee as well. One of my shops was across from the original Chipotle. We tried to talk that guy into franchising, and Steve wasn't interested. But Qdoba copied it. And we got involved. We invested in Qdoba and grew Qdoba, sold that to Jack in the Box. And then I just sort of found that as my niche, trying to find the next big thing early. It didn't bother me at all that these brands were emerging early stage. We knew how to figure that stuff out. Frankly, I liked that better than trying to go after a 200 or 300 unit tired chain and figuring out how to make that relevant. So that's really been our business. And you know, we've even invested in a bunch of brands that don't franchise, like Sweet Green and Qdoba. It's like if we find something that we think can get to 500 to 1,000 units and we can invest when it's a couple stores, we'll take every share we can buy.
How do you identify brands like that?
Yeah, there's not one thing, and we don't always get it right? And so like not only sometimes do we guess wrong on the concept, but we might get the concept right, but then the founders just can't quite keep it together. Like that sadly has been a trouble for us in the past. But really, you know, you're sort of looking at what's the next thing. So like in Five Guys, we knew Five Guys was never going to be the biggest burger brand. But we knew that its niche, its micro niche was this fresh burger, sort of better burger segment. It's like, and I knew I could own that. And in Qdoba, I mean, back when Chipotle had one store, Qdoba had one. You know, our competition was Taco Bell and you know, Del Taco. And so it was the same thing. It's like, oh, okay, we can do like fresh Mexican is a thing. But then, you know, like I'm growing the fastest growing Middle Eastern brand in the world called the Halal Guys. And I found these guys when they were street carts in New York City. 25 years, they got 3 carts and wildly successful carts. Like I have nothing to do with why customers stood in long lines for that. They loved the food. But I sat there and I said, you know, I've been to Middle East 25 times or whatever, opening American brands over there and fell in love with the street food. And then all of a sudden I started thinking, it's like, there's 1.5 billion Muslims and I can't think of one restaurant chain, one restaurant brand. I can't think of one brand even in the grocery aisles. I can't think of a Muslim or a Middle Eastern athlete or a celebrity that I knew, or apparel company or tech company or car company or anything. And I'm like, wait a minute, there's actually an opportunity here to put together. And so that was one of our options. But we also look at real estate. Like if we're better at anything, it's probably real estate around, you know, we've been steadily in the top 50, 60 media markets in North America. We know all the best locations, all the best landlords, and we're constantly trying to figure out like what holes are there in the markets. You're talking to landlords. It's like he can't come up with another burrito guy right now. He's not going to get rid of Chipotle. He's not going to get rid of Five Guys or Starbucks. So you've got to have a concept that's a little different to be broadly appealing, but it's got to be different enough that the landlords want to make room for you. So there's a lot of that we look at. And then, for us, we franchise a lot of times. Our existing franchisees are the first franchisees of our new brands. And so we're constantly in touch with our existing franchisees, and you sort of, what are you looking for? What are you guys interested in? And you just kind of triangulate all that. And, but that's it. There's a lot to it. But like I said, we're not always right. And unit economics is probably, that's another telltale sign is customers vote with their wallets. And if these places aren't busy, like we just signed up with I think the next big thing is plant-based concepts. And we just signed up with a plant-based burger brand in Los Angeles. And his sales, he's got one location he opened during COVID, and his sales were already higher than Five Guys national average. And so it's like, well, that tells you customers like it. And, he's not doing a ton of marketing. He's got a decent location, but his stores are really, really busy. And so, kind of like, there's sort of a lot of things that we look at, but that covers it.
I mentioned a few of those in your intro, Qdoba and Five Guys, because those are the ones that I'm most familiar with. Can you tell me about some other brands that you've helped launch?
Yeah, so we're growing. Like I said, the Halal Guys is the fastest growing Middle Eastern brand, halal brand. The Curry Up Now is the fastest growing Indian brand, another segment with billions in the population, and there's no Indian chain. We have the fastest growing Indian chain in North America. We're already coast to coast, and several multi-unit franchisees. We're growing back in the full service business. Have you ever heard of a TV show called Bar Rescue?
I have.
So John Taffer and I launched a concept during COVID, and it's a full service bar tavern. But because everyone's talking about, labor and labor problems and all the things that sort of plague full service, we actually engineered that concept to have no hoods. So we have this really, really busy full service restaurant. John and I said, look, let's figure out a concept to do where there's tons of opportunity, and casual dining has just been obliterated the last decade. And then COVID just wiped out another 20% of that market. But landlords are starving for it. You have a lot of franchisees that are already in full service who are looking for non-competing vehicles. And we said, let's create a concept that does more volume and less square feet, more volume with less employees, and like 50% drink sales, because that's where a lot of profit is. And we came up with this concept it's a hoodless and ventless, full service, high volume restaurant. It uses sous vide technology and all this stuff. But we created that brand. We're growing Rise. So Rise Biscuits and Donuts is a concept that, and they disclose their numbers publicly. So I'm not talking out of school, but this was a brand, biscuit sandwiches and donuts, successful brand even before COVID. And then all of a sudden with COVID, they automated their order taking. So now everything's either on an app or in a kiosk. They have no more cashiers. And then they ordered their expo. So you no longer have someone boxing up your food and running it out to the table or calling your name. They put it in a heated locker. And so you basically, he's got a restaurant that Rise, it's already in like 10 states, but his sales, because he automated the order taking, his sales actually went up almost 20%. Like customers are buying more food when you leave them alone, and they actually enjoy that experience. And then he gets rid of 2 staff. He basically gets rid of the cashier and the expo person and moves everything to a locker. And it all started with the conversation that he had with his employees about like, what do you like here? What don't you like? What kind of things do we need to get rid of? And people at Rise, it's a culinary, like the food's really good, but they're like, we like cooking. We like making the food. We enjoy making really unctuous food. We don't like all this other stuff. And so he basically engineered his concept for his employees and for his culture. And like I said, sales went up, the margins, like he almost doubled his profit margin. And but yeah, so Rise is another brand that we have, but we have a lot. We have our first non-food brand. We have a concept called Pay More. So it's a buy, sell, trade, new and used electronics. We actually got it originally thinking, you know what, let's come up with a lower price, lower ticket franchise for the people who really couldn't afford to do restaurant franchises. But all of a sudden, the people buying the franchises all want big territories, because this is a brand that costs $100,000 to open, and I think that they disclose like $2 million in sales in their shop. So we see this. Nobody's doing that. New and used electronics, gaming, and it's buy, sell, trade. And, it's just a hot little business. But we were drawn to that one originally by unit economics. We looked at their item 19 in their offering circular, and, they spend $100,000 or $200,000 to open, and they do 10 times that much in sales. And so we're constantly looking.
Yeah, you've been a multi-unit franchisee, master franchisee, a franchisor. You mentioned you were in the restaurant business before you even got involved in franchising. Why are you such a big believer in franchising?
Just, when I was 18 years old, I went to a motivational seminar. It was a 2-day event, and my takeaway is I wanted to get wealthy, helping people get wealthy. And that's the only way franchising works, right? So like if I'm out there growing 5 guys and the franchisees struggle, it goes nowhere, right? You waste your time and your energy. But franchising is one of these things. It's the great equalizer. It's like if your franchisees aren't successful, if your franchisors aren't successful, if your vendors aren't successful, if your key stakeholders in your business aren't successful, you're never going to be successful. But I love it. I like we've a bunch of people even on our website have given us videos over the years that we put up. There's a lot of people that started off with being worth hundreds of thousands that are now making millions of dollars, right? And so worth tons of money. And it's all happened through franchising. Franchising's been good for me. The whole restaurant business has been good for me. So, I've been doing this for 30 years. I'm planning on doing it, God willing, another 30 years. And I honestly would do this if I wasn't making any money.
What were you doing before you got into investing? What were you doing in terms of working in the restaurant industry?
I was a cook and I was a dishwasher. And through high school, I was a cook and a dishwasher. I was a scrub. And then I got lucky when I was 18. I got in the technology business, made some money between 18 and 23, and started off as a franchisee when I was 23.
Oh, wow.
So I went out, made some money. And the first thing I did is got right back in the restaurant business, bought a franchise. And I love it. It's just like no better pleasure I get than feeding people, right? And so like you feed people, you make them, in the restaurant business, you don't have to wait weeks or months or years for feedback from customers. You get it right away. And so, anyways, I love this business.
So you were successful financially outside of the restaurant business, but you missed it. Apparently you must have really loved it and you wanted to get right back in. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I liked it. It's just, I was in the software business. I hate data centers. Right. And then for 1 year I was doing medical practice, like automating radiology practices. And it's like, the only thing worse than a data center is a hospital. And it's like, I couldn't see myself being in either one of those the rest of my life. Restaurant business is just fun. It's just fun. So I like it. And my business, I get to travel all over the world. I mean, I've been all over the world with the restaurant business. And so, it's been good.
What are some characteristics of a good franchisee? And when they decide to finally make the decision to invest, what are they really getting into, and what should they be aware of?
Yeah. So when you're a franchisee, the thing to be aware of is it's not your business. Is that you're basically, franchising is a business of systems. The most successful franchisees follow systems. They basically build, you talk to any big 20, 30, 50 unit franchisee and you say, what's different between, why are you doing so much sales and profit compared to the people that are struggling? And almost every one of them will say, we follow the system. And the franchisees who struggle are the guys that constantly cut corners or trying to reinvent the wheel. But if you sort of buy into a system and you see, hey, Five Guys works. It's like this. People like this thing. All I have to do is do this and that, the way that they're telling me. And Halal Guys, whatever. It's like, they have systems if you follow the systems. But it's also a good sign. Like there's a lot of franchisees, oddly enough, they want to be entrepreneurs, but they want to hedge the risk a little bit by buying a franchise. Once they get in, they actually realize that they don't like being told what to do. They don't like to be, sort of managed or micromanaged, and they don't want to be accountable. And, there are franchisees that sort of are not transparent with their franchisors. And like I said, there's people that cut corners, but if you want to make a lot of money in this business, just follow the systems. And, we have a technique that we do. Like I like it really, I've seen it done in our business many times, where if you get into a franchise, you get into an emerging brand, which is where we play. The first couple, Five Guys, for example, were all low cost conversions, right? They cost next to nothing to open. They had huge sales because it was a great concept. Franchisees would make their money back quick, and you make so much money that you want to reinvest that money into more stores. Well, before you know it, you've got this like compounded returns because you've taken your profit, put it into more stores that make more profit. Now you take the profit from 2 stores to make 4 stores and 8 stores. And if you just follow the system, that's how it works. And again, if you talk to any big franchisee, that's exactly how they did it. There's no other way. Like, you're not going to cut corners. You're not going to reinvent the wheel and think that it's going to be better than the franchisor.
So you may have already covered this a little bit, but if somebody was interested in becoming a franchisee, how does the process work if you want to work with Fransmart?
Yeah, so you just call us. And so you call us, you email us. We have a spectrum of brands depending on capital, depending on, how intricate are they to operate. And we really want to work with a franchisee. I'd rather not sell a franchise than to sell a bad franchise. I'd rather, because I also have a reputation with my brands. Like, I don't want to sell a deal and it doesn't work out. So we actually spend time with the franchisees to kind of understand, where are you? Where are you trying to go? What are you trying to get to? I might actually hook them up with a couple of franchisees so that they can actually, if I've got someone who's one of my buddies is a technology guy who built a franchise on the side, and now that franchise is 5 times bigger than the amount of money he was originally making. And so and if somebody's in technology that has those aspirations, I might pair them up and let them talk and share, experience share. But really, you just call us, whether, it kind of doesn't matter. If you've got a little bit of capital, we've got access to capital. Whatever size franchise you're interested, we're going to want to help you build something bigger. And so we get you in the right brand and come up with the right strategy, then, our experience says you're going to keep building our franchises.
How ready should a first-time franchisee be for, doing dirty work, like cleaning tables or just doing everything involved in the location?
Yeah, I think, so it's funny, the technology guy I mentioned, he actually bought a franchise in a different state, so he did none of that. But normally I would say, don't buy a franchise if you're not willing to do everything. Like, you have to, because it all has to get done. So if you either you're doing it or you have to hire people to do it. And, and if you're not willing to roll up your sleeves, at the end of the day, again, clean restaurants are important. Fast service is important. And if you're not willing to jump in to make sure if there's something going on in your restaurant, and let's say that you've got this big surge of customers and you're not willing to jump in and help out, if you're not willing to go to training, right? So like, you're here people spend millions of dollars to lock up a territory and buy franchises. They don't even go through training. One of the telltale signs that we have on that subject is one of the first things that we do in our screening process is we talk about training. And a lot of times we actually pad it, make it seem like it's longer. And when prospects ask us, well, I don't want to do that. Can I just go to like a week-long training? It's like, that's the first indication that this isn't for you.
How do you guys help current restaurants become franchise brands? And what kind of goes into that?
Yeah. So if we find a concept that we like there's never been a concept that we can't figure out how to drive the sales and reduce the costs, make them more profitable. We help them with their systems and their procedures. So a lot of people have systems about how you run a shift in the restaurant, but how do you actually build a procedure for someone to go build 5 of them or 10 of them, right? And co-packers or supply lines. Like, it's one thing, like with the Halal Guys, that was halal meat is not, it's sort of a new thing. And they're famous for their sauces that go on their products. So the first thing that we had to do was figure out a national solution. We had to, no matter where in the country we opened, we had to make sure that product would get to each franchisee. And so we're involved in unit economics, helping the franchisors build their systems and processes, helping franchisees staff for the kind of the businesses that they're trying to grow. We coach franchisors because they're going to go from mom and pop into a company too. And if that doesn't go well, then the whole thing's a little shaky. So we're involved in the whole thing, but there's nothing that we haven't seen. Like, we're involved in real estate. We're involved in creating marketing plans. Like, we just know because we've got this great big ecosystem of best practices and best known ways for everything. And not just the brands in Fransmart, but brands we're investing in. It's like, we're constantly picking up stuff that somebody does better than everybody else. that we put into what we call the Fransmart way. And so if you're a new brand, day one, you get all that stuff. So like this new plant-based brand I'm talking about, he's about to go through a deep dive, and he's going to get everything we got.
I was literally just going to ask you about the Fransmart way. What is that?
So it's really our best known way how to do everything. So if you think about a chain, like links in the chain, right? Franchising, everything it takes to open, everything it takes to operate is super predictable, right? So like you already know if you're going to have 100 Subway, 100, Century 21s, whatever. It's the same process of getting those things open and then operating. And we're constantly looking at every single link in the chain to see, is there a better way of doing it? Can we do it better? Is there a lower price, a better price? Is there, something that's more efficient, has better? And so we're constantly like working through that to make sure that if you're a new brand or a franchisee in one of our brands, as you're going through this process, you're getting the latest and greatest, best known way of every link in the chain.
How has COVID affected what you guys do? Did that kind of throw you guys for much of a loop?
Well, in the beginning of COVID, it was terrible because no one knew what the heck was going on or how long it was going to last. And then it didn't take long before we actually said, you know what, we're either going to affect the situation or we're going to get affected by the situation. And we said, you know what, the 8 billion people on the planet, everyone wakes up hungry, they're eating somewhere. We got to figure out how to still, do business. And so, we've had to figure this out. And it's, as sad as COVID is, and I'm not tone deaf to how bad COVID has been, 30% of the restaurant business closed or is like severely limping, right? And so as sad as that is, you're still looking at like you got 100% of the population in a market where only 70% of the people are still standing. That's an opportunity. And so we started to look and we said, hey, there's never going to be a better time to go pick off A+ real estate, never going to be a better time to go get really good conversions, right? And so, vendors, like we have a lot of vendors, like all of a sudden they, co-packing vendors that all of a sudden went from having their certain set of rules to all of a sudden being very flexible. You had landlords who were just so arrogant and smug, used to it being a landlord's market, that were now as humble as it could get. And the deal terms that you were able to get with landlords is just incredible. And then, it's like one thing after another. It's like we're dealing with like the same labor problems everyone else in the world is. It's like, okay, well, how do we navigate around that? It's like, let's figure out how to do our concepts so that we can overpay our employees, but still have a lower labor cost. Well, you do that by engineering out labor, right? So you it was like what I told you about with Rise or with Tappers. And so, supply line issues. It's like, well, supply line issues are killing people. It's like, okay, well, let's figure out how to not let that kill us. And so we do menu engineering and figure out how to sell more of the items that are easy to get and that are super profitable. And, and so we've just constantly bobbed and weaved and figured it out. And we're growing like crazy. But it's like anything. You remember two years ago in March, the stock market dropped like crazy, went into like 19,000 or whatever. And a lot of people were panic selling into that drop, right? A lot of people lost a lot of money by panic selling into the drop. The smart people were buying. And the market now it was under 20 and now it's close to 40,000. And, it's like the smart people know it's like the time to get in is when no one else is. It's like, and so anyways, and again, I don't mean to sound tone deaf about it, but the last 2 years has been very good for business.
How can people find out more about Fransmart or connect with you?
Yeah, fransmart.com. My email is Dan@Fransmart. So happy to connect with anyone.
And why is now coming out of COVID or, in the latest turn in COVID, why is now a good time to become either a franchisee or a franchisor?
The supply and demand, right? It's just, the supply and demand of all the publicly traded restaurant concepts. Go look at Domino's, go look at Taco Bell, look at Chipotle. Everybody's same-store sales are up. And so what I'm saying is like, even though it's sad, it's like there's some people making fortunes. You see Sweetgreen just went public and had a crazy valuation. They 150 unit chain went out at, I think, $4 billion or something like that. And it's like, there's so much money out there. There's so much opportunity. But I think right now is a good time. 2 years ago, it was very difficult. 2.5 years ago, it was very difficult. to be in this business. There just felt like there was too many restaurants, landlords. It was the landlord's market. Everything was expensive. 2 years from now, it could be that way again. So you're sort of in this window right now where it's sort of like the drop, like that stock market. When it drops, it's like right now is the time to get in. So if a new franchisee got in today, anything, a Domino's or one of our brands, or whatever it is, but if they can lower their startup cost by half, they basically just double or triple their ROI, right? So like you're just not going to have that opportunity for much longer. And for franchisors, it's like I think if someone's got a really good concept and it's not just a good concept for today, but it could be a good concept like for the next 5 to 7 to 10 years. Like you can really, it's not just another Me Too concept, but it actually has its own soul and its own DNA, and it really is the front end. It's sort of like in pizza. Like the only thing I like right now is sort of Detroit style pizza, because like I love pizza, but no one's doing that. And we get these emails every day from another pizza guy who's just like 80 other pizza guys. I'm like, no. It's got to be something new and different. Someone is going to go get their own little micro niche. But right now, it's just the same thing. It's like, it's easy. You got a lot of franchisees, existing franchisees of other brands that want non-competing brands to grow with. You got, I talked to earlier somebody with 15 Little Caesars, and he's like, and I said, do you wish that you had 50 Little Caesars? He says, yes, I just can't get them. It's sold out unless I want to go buy them, which is 6-8 times cash flow. It's like, but I can't get them anymore. And another guy bought a whole bunch of Jersey Mike's and paid 7 times cash flow for Jersey Mike's. It's like, what? You're going to get your money back in 7 years. And if you use debt, it's going to be 8 or 9 years to get your money back. It's like, and so a lot of these people are looking for other brands. So now is a good time. I think it's a good time to get in the business. And it's not going to be that way for long.
Final question for you. Are there any books that you have found particularly enjoyable or valuable during the course of your journey?
Yeah. I mean, I read a lot. So one of my favorite books of all time is The Richest Man of Babylon. And it's a quick read, but it talks about, the idea of compounding your returns. And Warren Buffett says the surest way to get wealthy is with compounded returns. And so Richest Man of Babylon, awesome book. It's an hour and a half read. You get the gist in the first 20 minutes. The rest of it is just examples to work through in your own mind. And then the other one is The Number. I think that The Number is a great book, and it's something that a lot of people need to come to grips with. It's like, what is my number? How much money do I need? Do I want? What's it going to take to live the kind of life that I want to live and set my family up? And, whatever your legacy issues are, whatever your wealth dreams are, I think you should put a number to it and then work backwards. Like, how am I going to get there? Right. And so those are 2 fantastic books. Same thing. The Number is you get the gist just from me telling you, but the book is fantastic and it'll work you through some good exercises to figure out what your number is.
Okay. Hey, I really appreciate your time today, Dan. It was great to hear your thoughts and your insights, and we'll encourage people to go to fransmart.com to learn more about you. Thanks so much. Appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thanks.
So long, everybody.
Thanks for listening to the Top Business Leaders Show, powered by Rise 25. Visit rise25.com to check out more episodes of the show and to learn more about how you can start your own podcast.